Kick out the jams, motherfuckers! Yeah! I'm gonna kick it out! Yeah! Well, I feel pretty good, and I guess that I could get crazy now, baby. But we all got it too, when the dressing room got hazy now, baby. I know I do wild and mama hot to be tight. The girls can't stand it when you're doing it right. Let me up on the stand, and then they kick out the jams. Yeah, kick out the jams. I'm gonna kick it out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pop Culture Club podcast. You know, I tend to do these very, very personal introductions to both shows nowadays, and of course I'm going to reiterate the fact that you should be checking out nowplayingnetwork.net for a wide variety of great podcasts from dear friends of mine that are very special to me, and that also holds true to the particular film that I touch upon with the director, the guest of this episode. You know, I've done a lot of interviews, and I certainly... I don't like playing favorites. This became its own entity in a weird way, where it became less of a conventional episode where, you know, I ask a bunch of questions and the guest answers them, and we sort of build off of that. It's really a very personal conversation that I have with Allan Moyle, the director of such films as Pump Up the Volume and Empire Records, but and Times Square. I mean, there's a wide spectrum of work throughout his career that a lot of it has gone unnoticed. I mean, Empire Records is probably the one he's known the most for, and I do enjoy the soundtrack quite a bit, but a soundtrack I enjoy far more happens to belong to Pump Up the Volume, and anybody who's been listening to this show for a while now knows how special that film is for me in my life. And I don't know what else to say other than please listen, and feel free to send me an email at popcultureclubpodcast@gmail.com or nowplayingnetwork@gmail.com. And once again, you know where to go. popcultureclub.net, nowplayingnetwork.net. Just to get in touch, share your thoughts on this conversation. It would mean a lot to me. And here we go with a quote-unquote interview with the director of Pump Up the Volume, Mr. Allan Moyle.
Cease to resist, giving my goodbye. Drive my car into the ocean. You think I'm dead, but I sail away on a wave of mutilation, wave of mutilation, wave of mutilation, wave.
I'll just start out by saying, in June of 1990, I had just gotten out of my first year of junior high school, and I had gained weight. I had trouble communicating. I had maybe one or two friends at the most, but I was just consistently struggling with depression. It was severe. And then my parents were on the verge of divorce. And that was kind of the last straw for me, because it was unimaginable to think of my dad moving all the way to Texas while my mom and I were going to be living in the Chicago suburbs. It was too difficult for me to bear. So I couldn't see myself dealing with the circumstances. and I took a whole bunch of pills from the medicine cabinet. Luckily, I threw them all up.
Wow.
I was still sad. I was still very, very sad, and because my parents were going through something so difficult, I didn't want to burden them. I didn't want to bother them with what I was going through. So I kept that a secret. And a couple of months later...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. It's tough to even just think about being in that state of mind. But there's...
So you're alone in your room.
Yeah. Most of the time. I was an only child. I mean, I have a half-sister that mainly grew up in California, but we're not super close or anything. And, so, I mean, a couple of months later, that same year, I heard a review on WGN Radio, which is a AM talk radio station based out of Chicago that I've been listening to most of my life because my dad had. And they had talked about this film that had just opened called Pump Up the Volume. And when I heard the premise, I begged my mom to take me to it, since it was rated R, and, of course, I was 12 years old. So we saw it. And as I'm watching this movie, my sadness completely lifted. It was cathartic. It was the first movie experience I ever had that felt like therapy for me. Mm-hmm. And, it was a way for me to finally cope with my demons, because Hard Harry was saying all the things that was in my heart and on my mind, and I couldn't communicate the way he could in front of a microphone. But in some weird, uncanny way, Hard Harry was the version of myself I wanted to be, a great communicator. Someone who could just freely express himself and all his frustrations and anxieties and depression and all that. But I was very much like how he is in front of people and in class and in school. I was very introverted. But at the same time, cut to many, many, many years later, man, and I started podcasting. So really, Pump Up the Volume not only saved my life, literally, because who knows, if I hadn't seen it, I might have done it again. I'm not saying that I would have, but it's very possible. I just felt like if a movie can have this kind of impact on my life, then there's hope. And if a character can sort of express what I'm trying to express, then I'm not alone, after all. So this movie really, it changed my life. It turned me into the person that I am today. So Mr. Allan Moyle, writer-director of one of my all-time favorite movies, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Wow.
It means the world to me. So
wow. I feel like crying right now. It's so beautiful that that movie reached a person as deeply as that. Wow. This is the first time I've ever heard. I've heard people say I loved your movie, but I've never heard that before. Jim, thank you very much.
Oh, sure.
And that speech comes at a time where I'm a little bit depressed about my future, my world. I'm in transition I'm 69, so can't decide what to do with my life from here on. Luckily, I'm stable. I have a wife of 16 years who I love, although she drives me nuts. But as my own mother says, if it wasn't for her, I'd be face down in a ditch. So I'm lucky to have that, and we own some cottages surrounding our house, which we rent out for income.
Oh, that's great, like Airbnb?
We just stopped doing Airbnb because it was too much effort, so we're transitioning back into regular tenants. But we have six units, and ideally they're all full of nice, interesting people. And we have 5 out of 6 right now, and so we're thrilled. And a lot of animals, a lot of dogs, and so I'm lucky, but I am worried about how I'm going to spend the next 25 years because my writing and directing days are over because I have type 2 diabetes, and I can barely read a script, let alone write one. You know, it really I've found, or maybe it's age, but so I have to invent a new me for myself.
Sure.
And a friend of mine has written a script. Excuse me. I might help him, or I might stop being a crybaby and see myself as luckier than most, and just write much more slowly. I don't know. I haven't decided what to do, but while you were talking to me, I had the feeling that life goes in sections, you know, and the next section doesn't have to be a disaster. It can be beautiful, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, thank you for that. Wow, I'm all choked up. Thank you, Jim.
You, obviously. I mean,
so then what happened? I want more detail. What happened?
Well, I mean, obviously, I've gotten...
You saw the movie. Your mother. You're sitting next to your mother.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, she didn't have the same response because she was from a different generation. I mean, she certainly appreciated it, but didn't have the emotional connection to it the way I had. And, you know, her response was like, why did Christian Slater have to pretend to masturbate?
Oh yeah.
But, you know, she still liked it, you know, and it was still hard for me to talk because, I mean, I would say it wasn't until a decade later that I revealed to my mom that, you know, I have struggled with depression and that it came to that point. But, you know, nowadays we're very open and have a great relationship. You know, unfortunately, my dad passed away way too young from kidney cancer. And so that's also left a little bit of a void in my life. But at the same time, I'm in therapy, I have medication, I exercise, I meditate. Like, I do all the things that, you know, most people recommend. So I've been able to...
Where do you live?
I live outside of Chicago.
And with your mother?
Yeah, currently I am, just because I want to save some money and, you know, sort of get things together before I move out. But it's an amazing relationship. Like, she gives me my own space, and it's not like I'm living in the basement, but I'm living in a very nice bedroom with a lot of sunlight and all my music instruments everywhere and microphones and a soundboard. You know, it's not unlike, you know, Hard Harry, although I've also pursued music in the same way I've pursued podcasting. Like, I just put it out there in hopes that somebody hears it, and especially with the podcast, people have heard it, people respond, and I've built a little audience of my own. And that's something I really didn't have when I needed it, but now that I have it, I cherish it. But, you know,
so podcasting is a little bit, it's an amateur radio, like Pump. So. Yeah. That's so interesting.
I do have to go back to Pump Up the Volume, because, you know, it's funny because even though I'm in my late 30s, I still watch the movie and remember the feeling I had when I first saw it.
And that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's almost like when you hear a song and you time travel back to a moment and you think, oh, I was there with this person and this was happening.
Okay, continue. Go back to your last sentence. I missed it. I was watching my wife.
Oh, that's okay. I rewatched the movie again and I just remember the feeling.
Oh, yeah, you have the same feeling every time?
Yeah,
wow.
It seems that way because it's really like, oh, man, I remember where I was when I first saw this and how I felt. And it's like... You know, I can remember who I was, but then I flash forward and go, wait a second, I've really evolved to some degree, and I've really learned to manage my emotions. But it's still hard for me not to cry when Malcolm Kaiser says, I'm all alone. That moment, I think that was probably the moment when I first saw it, too, that made me go, man, that's how I feel, and I got to that dark place.
And they wanted us to cut that scene out. Can you believe it?
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's reminiscent too, like of a movie called Permanent Record. Did you see Permanent Record with?
No,
Keanu
tell
Reeves?
me.
Yeah, this is an older film. I would say it's from 1987. I know I forgot who wrote and directed it, but it's also one of those hard to find movies. But at the same time, it is about a teenage suicide and how it affects an entire town, particularly a very young Keanu Reeves. And that's another one of those movies that's really emotionally raw. So yeah, I just...
Would you text me that as a reminder?
Sure.
I want to watch that. Yeah, there was a kid in my town who killed himself.
Oh.
I grew up in a small town, and he killed himself with a .22 rifle quite near my house.
Oh my gosh.
And now that we're talking, it really confused and again, I didn't talk to anybody about it.
Right.
I just worried, and I went to that place in the woods where he did it or allegedly did it, and look, wow. But you know, you blow my mind. There's one movie I saw and that I could watch. I've watched it 10 times now, and every time I have the same feeling, and I'm thinking, can it last? Will it ever get boring? And so far, no. And it's a movie that nobody's ever seen. It's called Performance with Mick Jagger.
Is that
Do you know
Nicholas
it?
Roeg's movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've seen it. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I should give that another look for sure.
And here's why I think that I'm privately so attached to it, is because I saw it at a time where my heart chakra or whatever it is must have been super open, because I have the same intense feeling every time I see the movie. And I remember the sound of the leather jacket of the guy sitting next to me squirming, because the movie's very squirmy, right? And you know what I mean?
Right.
I remember I remember the first time I saw it. It's fascinating. It doesn't happen with every movie, though, does it, Jim?
No, it doesn't. It's funny because, like, I think of having a really powerful reaction to another Nicholas Roeg movie, Walkabout, because that's an intense movie for sure. I
felt physically sick.
Yeah.
When I saw that movie. I remember standing on the street. I know exactly what movie theater in New York City. And I stood there. I felt physically sick. And I don't drink much. I needed to get drunk. So I went into a bar next to the theater and drank so I could calm down.
Oh,
Isn't that amazing? And I don't know what was wrong with my head, but I didn't get what was going on. I didn't get that it was a psychic thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's quite clear in the movie, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's totally psychological, and it plays on this deeper level, sort of about culture clashing in addition to a coming of age movie. It's really got a lot of heavy themes to where I could see somebody getting really depressed from that experience. But it's also like, I don't know, I've always been one of those people that doesn't mind a depressing movie because I'm feeling something. If it makes me feel even a lot of sadness to where I'm like, yeah, I might need a drink or I need to relax after that experience, I find that to be a positive experience. I know people just want movies to be escapism sometimes, but I prefer the emotional catharsis, and a lot of that could be due to the fact that I see Pump Up the Volume at a vulnerable age, at an age where my brain is developing to some degree. So they could have informed a lot of my taste as well, which is interesting. But interesting. You made just an intelligent and well-made film with a lot of vital things to say. And it's I think it would be even more resonant today. I know a lot of people go, well, maybe it's a little dated and, there's some elements of it that wouldn't hold up. But I personally think in this day and age, we could use Hard Harry again.
Thank you.
Even if we just got a Blu-ray release of it or something, because it's easy to see that even Christian Slater recently on the TV show Mr. Robot Have you seen that at all?
No, I haven't. Tell me.
Yeah, Christian Slater's playing a character on Mr. Robot who has these really intense speeches sometimes about what's going on psychologically within this character. But at the same time, it's not something I can openly talk about too much because it would involve a spoiler. So I can't necessarily reveal a lot about this particular character. However, even the director, the creator of this show, I actually tweeted to him, hey, was this thing that you just did in this last episode, was that a nod to Pump Up the Volume? And he tweeted back at me and goes, yes.
Wow.
So it's sort of infused a little bit into the popular consciousness to some degree. I think if a well-known show like Mr. Robot can not only cast Christian Slater, but have an element of his previous work infused into the character. So, I don't know.
You know what I'm thinking right now, Jim? You know the end when all the little voices come on?
Absolutely.
That's prescient about podcasting, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Because it's free, anyone can do it, right? And anyone can have a voice. It's kind of beautiful, isn't it, when you think about it? Now, I'm too old to be into podcasting. The whole internet makes me a little nervous.
Sure.
And I don't tweet or Twitter. I'm on Facebook, but if you notice, I haven't. I'm not on it. I'm there, I think, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think I've looked at it for years. Tell me what I should do. How should I handle Facebook? I want to be attached to the world, but Facebook is so overwhelming.
Yes, I agree.
And maybe I don't have enough filters. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, now that you have an iPhone,
I'd like to be Facebook with you, for example.
Well, certainly. And I think if you have an iPhone, it's very easy to just stay interconnected to a lot of different things. Some people choose to embrace just one, like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any number of these places. But I think Facebook is the most universal. It's the one that, even grandparents are on. Even if it's just to look at family photos, that's how some people use it. You get to choose what content to put on it. So it's really just a matter of downloading the Facebook app into your iPhone and then deciding how you want to use it. I certainly use it more as a tool to promote podcasts or whatever I'm, involved with. But at the same time, you can be personal with it, and that's something that some people choose to do. But I also feel, that with social media these days, I feel like we can be doing even more with it than just taking photos of our dinner or our kittens, or, And that's kind of where I also look to, Hard Harry as a character that speaks to the voice of a generation. And now we need, I think it's mostly just because, like, you turn on the news and I see, like, the police state of mind, the racism, the fact that Trump could be president of all people. It almost seems like we need, like, Howard Beale from Network or Hard Harry from Pump Up the Volume to sort of say, hey, what is going on right now in this country of ours? Because it's pretty bleak. But I feel like a lot of art gives me hope. A lot of films and a lot of music in particular, too. That's another thing I got to credit you for, is that soundtrack is pretty phenomenal.
Thank you.
Track for track, Pump Up the Volume was one of my... It remains still one of my favorite soundtracks, just because it introduced me to a lot of bands and artists, including Leonard Cohen.
What Cohen songs are in it? The Future? Is that in it?
Everybody Knows, for sure.
Yes.
And If It Be Your Will. I think are the only two songs used.
That My Voice Be Still. That's still very moving song, eh?
Yeah. Especially during the moment where, he's about to reveal his feelings about what happened to Malcolm. And, that's all really, really powerful stuff. And And also Samantha Mathis. She sort of became, I don't want to say like an archetype for the type of girls I was attracted to, but I found myself as an introvert being more drawn towards an extroverted girl that seemed very free, that seemed very open, the kind that would be very comfortable to just, I'm just going to take off my shirt, you know, and just not have any fear, it seemed like, you know. So that's also very interesting to me, is her character and how she has this significant impact on Harry's life, because he really just wants to make a connection. That's really what it all comes down to. And then he finally does.
Wow, it's interesting. It's so wonderful talking to you about this. Wow. Yeah, Samantha and her character, they're I was so disappointed with the release of the movie.
Yeah.
And that I, in a way, turned my back on everyone involved in it. Unconsciously, of course, right?
Right.
And I haven't seen Samantha. She's such a good person in real life.
Oh, I don't think
but Sandy Stern, the producer of it, and basically, if the truth be known, the co-writer, there's no way, he was the producer, but he found the script when it was very rough, and we went through many drafts together, and although he didn't put pen to paper, he guided it in such a way that if the WGA allowed it, there would be a credit for him, you know, significant, but not quite enough to be co-writer. But the WGA, I don't know if you know anything about their rules, is very protective of the original writer against input from directors and producers subsequent to the original draft. So they're harsh on, and you can imagine how producers and directors would abuse the writer and want writing credit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For contributing, for changing, for all the stuff that's necessary to get the movie made. But in this case, it was all positive, Sandy Stern. And so I'm good friends with him still. But still, when he calls, I feel a twinge of regret and inadequacy. I did something wrong. It was my fault. And so on and so forth, you know. Oh. Anyway, that's strange. I'm feeling very emotional now, Jim. Sorry.
Oh no, it's understandable.
You opened up a little a wormhole.
Yeah. No, I don't have any qualms with, you know, being vulnerable and talking about deep feelings, and you know, obviously, a huge impetus for me wanting to talk with you was just to share that, because, you know, I certainly get a positive experience from watching the movie, clearly, but you know, I think it's also a reason why I've always tried to reach out to certain musicians to say, hey, your song really helped me.
Yeah.
And it's good to hear that, because not every artist gets that kind of feedback. They just put it out into the world and hope for the best and hope for good reviews or, you know, positive feedback. But it's good to hear when something that you've created has had a positive effect. But
it's scandalous how many songs don't reach an audience.
Oh, absolutely.
Far worse than movies.
Yeah.
And far worse than movies.
And it's tough now, because I want to embrace technology, but there's so much content. There's so much to sift through that it becomes overwhelming. I remember reading a book called The Paradox of Choice, and how the brain can't handle all this stimuli and all these options placed in front of you so rapidly that you become overwhelmed. And your brain almost has this instinct to shut down rather than be excited by all the options. And that's kind of why I frown upon online dating, because all these profiles with people putting their ideal version of themselves, And then it's almost like it feels weird. It feels like shopping. And I just I don't like that experience. That's not a real human interaction.
I instinctively am revolted by it, and I have good friends who and there's something addictive about it too. It seems that good normal friends of mine who are currently shopping for a new partner can't sit down and have a conversation without flipping,
Yeah.
And they give each person about a second. Ooh, scary. Can we go back for a second about Facebook?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Maybe my problem is that I am unable to handle the vastness of it. Yeah. And if I had enough filters and I had kept myself to, let's say, 10 people, like people I'm interested, like you, and I can think of 9 others. And then I didn't have to, I don't know, there must be some book or YouTube out there that teaches a person like me how to optimize my experience with this amazing new, I've taken LSD a million times. I'm aware that the world is all one thing. We're aware. I'm one, right? But it's too overwhelming to think of billions of people and me interacting. Do you know what I mean?
No, I totally know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
What's your advice,
do.
then?
It's funny because, since the podcast, I get friend requests all the time, and I don't know who a lot of the people are, and then sometimes I wind up adding one of their friends or one of their friends, and it does become overwhelming to sift through the news feed when you have 800 plus friends. And
yes.
I don't know it would be such a different experience to just have the core essential people in my life as Facebook friends. And I think that would be ideal for you, certainly, so you're not overwhelmed by it, and it doesn't seem like this daunting thing to check in on, because I understand where you're coming from with that, for sure. But it's I also have to embrace it, because that's how I'm able to promote what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, with you it's a business thing.
A little bit, yeah.
And also, but with me everything is business. I'm an artist, so
sure.
Every moment of my life is business. I mean, this is business. Our conversation right now could technically be called business. We're both promoting ourselves right now.
Yeah, it's a transaction.
It's a transaction, but it's also we're exploiting this wonderful invention called the telephone, right? In the good sense of exploiting, right?
Right.
It's fascinating. But by the way, I want to flip back. My mind is abuzz now. There's either this espresso my wife made me, or this conversation.
Hopefully it's
got
both.
me. It's tripping. You said walkabout, but the name Nicholas Rogue tripped me, and then you said walkabout, but I didn't hear the word walkabout. I substituted Don't Look Now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that's the movie that made me sick at my stomach, with the little red creature running, and clacking on the cobblestones, right?
That's creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you went on to say, I like movies that fuck with me.
Right.
Maybe the same way as someone who sticks needles into their arm, right? To feel something, right?
Sure. No, that makes sense. One's healthier than the other. Going into a movie theater in hopes of having a trippy experience of sorts is probably healthier than sticking a needle in your arm.
But if the movie's any good, there's a catharsis. You feel horrible for the hero at a moment, and then you could ask yourself, you come out, why did I just pay $10 to feel horrible? Well, because the miracle experiencing someone else's life in 90 minutes, right, for free, basically, right? You didn't have to lead their life, right?
Right.
You just saved yourself a lifetime by going to the movie. It just blows my mind what a gift that is, right?
Yeah, to live vicariously through somebody else's life.
Yeah, and all the best bits all edited together, and yeah, maybe that's what I'll do for my sunset years, is just watch all those movies I loved, and more from Japan and Germany and Norway, and
That's what I would do. I would watch a lot more, and certainly read a lot more. I mean, my attention span isn't what it used to be, unfortunately, so sometimes I start a book, and then I go, I'm getting restless. I mean, obviously, if it's a good read, then I'm going to stick with it, but I notice that after a while, I'm like, and I do blame that a little bit on technology to some degree, sort of rewiring my brain, my synapses to some degree.
It's got to be pernicious.
Yeah.
That addictive, I don't know what's going on, but my attention span is, and when you're writing a script, you have to keep thousands of ideas balanced or up in the air like oranges, and if your brain isn't top notch, that's so interesting.
Well, thank God for coffee and espresso. I mean,
you like coffee. What turns you on?
Well,
what drugs do you use?
Just coffee for now. I went through a dark period when I was living in Michigan, drinking way too much, to where I don't get a thrill or a pleasure from getting drunk anymore. It's just not in the picture for me. I will have a couple glasses of wine or a couple beers, but I don't ever want to get to the place of being incoherent. So it is all about music, movies, coffee, friends, obviously. I mean, a lot of the things that a lot of people turn to. But for some reason, podcasting really became a source of comfort. I get a lot of solace from listening to people have conversations or talk passionately about something that they're into. And it's to some degree, it's like I feel like I've had a form of friendship with a lot of these hosts, especially when you listen to 100 plus episodes and you're, essentially listening to them talk once a week. You sort of look forward to it the same way you look forward to seeing a friend or a family member.
So give me after this conversation, text me one that I could go to that you like.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No.
And hook me up with your podcast, and especially one you think I'd like. Okay?
Yeah. I certainly can do that.
I'm certainly looking forward to finding some way into the matrix and that's in a good sense, not the movie sense, but we're in this amazing matrix, and I read yesterday in the New Yorker that possibly planet Earth is a simulation.
Yeah, right. I read that too.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
And it could be true. It's kind of a fun thought. And then you go out into your yard. Do I go on the internet and watch Russian car crashes, or do I go out into the yard and stare into my cage of finches, all chirping away? Which is healthier for me?
Yeah.
Right?
No, there's definite moments where if I'm just going for a walk on a nature trail without I'm not looking at my phone, I'm not anywhere near a computer. I feel a sense of connection to that environment because I'm temporarily getting away from all the stimuli, and I think you need downtime. Your brain needs that. Your brain needs time spent at a beach staring out into the water and not at a computer screen for hours on end. But it's also about how you use it, really, because I would like to.
So you go on walks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's definitely meditation.
And are you close to nature? I mean, what kind of where do you walk, to the 7-Eleven?
No, I would say that the local library I go to, I like going into study rooms just to decompress and try to read or do something like a project that I'm working on. But then afterwards, right nearby, they do have like a very simple river with a nature preserve that people either jog nearby or walk, and it's nothing to write home about, but at the same time, it's a place to decompress. It's I think of like, well, if I go to the library and spend a couple hours doing one thing, then I should just also spend some time amongst the trees.
You sound like a wonderful person, Jim.
Oh wow, thanks, Alan. This really means a lot coming from you.
And it's lucky for me to be having this conversation that connects me with my past and the podcasting future. I just feel somehow more encouraged about how to walk through or float through our current universe. Because that idea was something that scratched my mind 30 years ago, or whenever I wrote that movie, right? Sure. Mm-hmm. And it's still true. How do we deal with keeping self-expressed and creative in a complex world that's getting more complex?
Yeah, it is.
And this. I read that these helicopter moms, you know what that is, right?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
They were like sending their teenage sons, let's say, to computer camp 20 years ago so that they would get a leg up, right? Mm-hmm. My wife's Japanese, and I know a Korean helicopter mom, and she sent her kid to computer camp so that he would be smart. He would have more advantages at school in his life, right?
Right.
And then he became kind of addicted to computers, and she thought, well, he never learned to canoe or swim or archery or any, he's not connected to nature at all. So she sent him to a non-computer camp. Have you heard about those where there's no digital stimuli at all?
Oh wow! Well, I think that's a plus for the
but guess what happened? Guess what happened? The kid got physically sick. First of all, he hated it because he missed his devices. And then he got physically sick, and so did a lot of other kids in the camp, the nature camp. The nature just made them so nervous, and
it's almost like they were going through withdrawal.
Yeah, and some of them were hospitalized.
Oh my gosh!
I wonder if it's true. I mean, I know it's true of one person because it was her son.
Sure.
And then, but
I don't.
So have you ever lost your iPhone and then felt horrible until you found it?
It's funny because I've been trying, especially when I watch a movie, to shut my iPhone off and pretend like I'm actually in a movie theater. I because I don't want distractions. It's so easy to be distracted sitting in the comfort of your own home. And I want to treat watching a movie the same way I would if I was going to the theater. Because I want to feel it, I want to absorb it, I want to have a good experience with it. And there are definite times if I'm restless with the movie, or there's maybe a lull in the actual what's the word? I'm pacing, where I'm just kind of like getting restless. I will find myself wanting to go to the iPhone to mainly look up things that maybe like, oh, I wonder what Ebert thought of this movie, or I wonder if because our brains are so used to Googling. If you have a thought, I want to go to Google and see what other people are saying about it, or to validate what I'm thinking. So there's definitely been instances where I say, okay, I'm taking 2 hours, a 2-hour break from technology and only watching this movie or reading this book. But I'd say about an hour in, yeah, I do feel that need to check in on social media or something like that. And I think it's just because our dopamine receptors are being rewired by technology. So I think it's good to try to find a healthy balance to where if you feel yourself becoming too dependent, say, okay, I'm going to take a little vacation from my phone, even if it's just for a few hours, because sometimes that's all you need.
When you meditate, you obviously turn your phone off, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What kind of meditation do you do? I'm very, very curious.
Well, it's funny because like I tried transcendental meditation a lot because it's what David Lynch was into, and he said it helped fuel his creativity and things like that. And I was skeptical. And to some degree, it really is just me sitting in a room, not necessarily in complete darkness, but just closing my eyes as if I were going to go to sleep. But I don't reach REM sleep. I don't reach a state of deep sleep. I essentially just sort of have this experience of going inward and trying to clear my mind, even though the first instinct you have when you close your eyes, and this is a huge reason why people have trouble trying to sleep, and I do too, is that silence and darkness or stillness, you want to fill that with something. You want to your brain is instinctively saying, okay, it's quiet, but I want to project this thought into you right now. Like, I have to pay these bills, or I have this to get done, or any number of things that cause people anxiety when they're trying to go to sleep. I think that pops up while initially I'm trying to meditate. So the idea is to silence those thoughts temporarily, even for 15 minutes. And I've often told people, it's almost like a cat nap, but you're not going into deep sleep. I don't even know how I trained my brain to do it. That's the thing. Like, if somebody asked me, show me how you do it, or give me a tutorial on how to meditate, I really don't know, other than the fact that I just do this thing where I sit where there's no stimuli and close my eyes.
Send me a link to your podcast. By the way, you're very articulate.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You express yourself very, very well. What happened? First of all, can we talk again?
Oh, yeah,
Can we
I hope
talk
so.
again?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let me go now, because my wife and my house guest are calling me. And I told them an hour, and it's been 45. But the thing is, we've barely scratched the surface, and I'm so interested in everything you're talking about. So can we talk again tomorrow or later today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can definitely talk tomorrow.
Do you have a time frame? Do you have a time frame? Is this are you on a deadline? Do you put out something every week, and this has got to be done by Monday morning? What's the deal? I'm
not picky about that whatsoever. It's really just, again, free form and unstructured, and the fact that
I can't believe how free form this conversation is.
It's been great. So, I mean, I try not to treat it like a traditional interview where it's like, here's my question.
It's not. Don't worry. Believe me. But first of all, I'm thrilled to meet you. Second of all, I love the things we're talking about, and I have a strong feeling that you're going to be helpful to my life.
Oh, that means a lot.
I want you to come to L.A. and stay in my guest room someday. But the point is, for now, let's say goodbye, because the outside world, the Matrix, is calling me. Okay, so my dear friend, thank you.
No, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope we get to talk about Pump Up the Volume some more, and maybe even trying to get a Blu-ray release for it at some point.
Okay, beautiful. All good. It's all good.
Okay.
Thank you again, and
thank you.
Adieu for now. Bye-bye.
Everybody knows. That's how it goes. And everybody knows.
Yes, that about wraps it up. Oh my goodness, can you believe that conversation took place? I can't. I don't know. I'm always taken aback, but at the same time, I should recognize the fact that many artists that have made significant contributions to my life and other people's lives have a lot of empathy and a lot of compassion and a lot of warmth. So they're not all ego-driven narcissists out there in La La Land, I guess you could say. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just very grateful that this happened. It's something I'll never forget, and hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I have. The next episode's going to be coming up really quick in the next couple days because it's another one I'm very proud of. Adam Schlesinger of Fountains of Wayne, composer, songwriter extraordinary. He brought us the title track for That Thing You Do. Most recently, he is writing the majority of the music on my favorite show on television right now, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Well, it's a toss-up between Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and The Americans. But anyway, I love both of those shows for different reasons, but the composer of these many terrific songs that appear on that show is Adam, and my conversation with him is just as joyful and exciting as this one that you've just heard. So it's almost like I get to talk to a filmmaking hero and now a musical hero for the next Pop Culture Club. So stay tuned, stay subscribed, visit iTunes, leave a review, and be sure to visit nowplayingnetwork.net and popcultureclub.net. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.